I feel like I have a lot to say, and you're gonna listen to me. I'm so nervous to make this video. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Annette, and I just realized that I've posted 10 videos on my YouTube now, and none of them are actually telling you who I am. I hope I ain't got no food in my teeth because I just had my lunch. But I figured I'd let you get to know me a little bit more, and maybe my experiences can help you out while you're navigating through whatever season it is that you're going through, because baby, I'm about to turn 25, and yeah, the 20s are no joke. So maybe if I recall a little bit of my childhood, then we can help each other out. So we're gonna get started. I'm also doing my makeup because I have somewhere to be, and I want to do a little get ready with me. So let's get started. I'm gonna start with my eyebrows. Oh no, I gotta do my skin prep. See, let me write down actually what I need to do. I need a pen. Start with primer, contour. Okay, I think I'm ready to get started now. I have my mirror in front of me just in case I'm not looking at the camera. But I was born and raised in Nairobi, Kenya. Nairobi City, the best place ever in my life. And I grew up in Komarok. Now, if you're Kenyan, you know where I'm talking about, okay? I was at Islando, Islando, you know? So I had humble beginnings, to say the least. I had very humble beginnings. And while I lived in Komarok, I went to a Catholic school that was called Diwapa, and Diwapa stood for Divine Word Parish. So I grew up a Catholic school girly, and we can get into that in another video. But I'm grateful that I did, because I have a lot of the foundations that I have when it comes to religion and God are obviously because of being Catholic. I spent a lot of time in church as well. And while I lived in Kenya, I stayed with my mom, my auntie, my cousin, and my grandma. So that was my little community growing up. And growing up in church, a lot of the people that I went to school with, like we all went to church together. So I saw them pretty often. I'm learning how to talk to the camera and do my makeup at the same time. And there's a little bit of disconnect. So growing up, I grew up around my friends and my family, and everyone in the estate that I lived in, like we all knew each other. We'd grown up together. We all pretty much went to the same school. So I had a very strong foundation in my community and also from church as well. So when I got to around, I think it was class 5, which is like 5th grade in America, my mother got married to her husband, Phil. With that came a lot more changes. So we moved from Eastlands to Westlands. Now, when I was in Westlands, that was a little bit of culture shock. That's where I went to primary school at Loreto, where I met Stella. If you did not watch was it my last vlog? Now, if you watch my video, which if you haven't, this is your clue to go up and watch my vlog, okay? Where you see my friendship for 14 years. That's where I met my friend Stella. But Loreto was a little bit of a culture shock because, mind you, I'm from Eastlands, okay? It's like growing up in Eastlands is like growing up in the hood. Not really. Like, I don't know how to put it. Things were not bad, but like things could have been better, right? And one of the reasons why we actually moved was because of just safety reasons. But with this also came with changes of me moving to a different school, right? And I found myself in class with like politician kids. Does that make sense? Kids whose parents are politicians. People who just came from a more generous background than I had come from. And at that point, it wasn't too much of a culture shock, but I could definitely feel myself feel a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit. Do I belong here? I went there for 3 years. So from sixth grade to 8th grade, so class 6 to class 8, I went to Loreto. After Loreto happened, no, class 8. I have to go back to my memory bank, and that's proving to be a little difficult right now. In Kenya, I don't know if they still do it the same because I haven't been to school there in so long. I think they do, but I don't know. You had to, when you got to class 8, you had to take a national test, and that national test determined where you went to high school. That was an interesting experience. However, when I was finishing class 8, my stepdad got a job in India. And actually, I think, yeah, when we were living in Kenya, he was working in India. So the plan was when I finished class 8, because the next thing would be high school, then I could just start high school when we moved to India. It was great because I didn't have to worry too much about that national testing, so that came in clutch. However, I did not know what I was about to experience in India. Oh, I just got makeup on mine. Now, at this point, how old am I? I was either 11 or 12 years old when we moved. I was excited because I'd been on a plane before, but I'd never been on a plane for that long, number one. And also, like, wow, I'm moving to a new country. This is so exciting. Little did I know that's when I was about to start growing up. While I wait for that to dry, I'm gonna do my foundation. So I was really excited to pack my bags. We were about to go on an adventure. I was really sad because I love to read and I had a really big book collection, and I had to leave it behind, and I was so sad. That's one of the things that I still remember, so that should tell you how much of an impact that made. So I was really sad about that, and I was also sad about leaving my family. Like, I grew up with my cousin, who was practically my brother. I was leaving my grandma and my auntie and my little community that I had formed, but I had my mom, so I was like, okay, it's not gonna be too bad, right? She's one person that, she's always been a constant in my life, so I had that still. And that was good enough grounding for me at that moment. Now, India. When I was in India, we lived in Mumbai. I remember India being so humid. That's the one thing that I really fully remember. Hold on, I'm supposed to be doing my foundation right now. It's not time to blend yet, girl. It's not. And I have to mix 2 shades because they both have different undertones that are a little too much. That's really not what the topic of this video is. The first thing we did when we got to India was look for an international school, which involved a lot of school interviews that were just taxing, but I don't really remember much of that about that process. But I ended up getting into this international school. I'm putting it in quotes because ain't nobody that was international in that school but me, baby. I have never felt so out of place in an institution before. Mind you, I'm coming from a predominantly black country, okay? And I'm going somewhere where 95% of the people do not look like me. And I'm saying 95% because there's a lot more Indians that are darker than I am. However, they're not Kenyan, So the demographics of the school were 99% Indian. I'm pretty sure I was the only. Well, truthfully, I didn't really go out checking if there were any other international students. But I was pretty much, I think I was the only black girl in that school. Wow. Let me tell you what an experience. Granted, the majority of the people that I spoke to and I interacted with were very, very kind, very sweet people, and I met one of the loveliest girl. I think her name was Pooja. Pooja, if you remember me, I still remember you. I remember the emails we sent to each other, but Pooja was from New Jersey and she had just moved back to India with her family. So she was like the closest thing to an international student that, how do I put it? I felt she was relatable, right? Like, we were not from around here. We also had started, that's another thing I forgot to mention. So the Kenyan school year starts again. This is from like years ago. I don't know if things still happen the way that they used to, but the year starts in January and ends in December, right? Like, it's the whole year, but it's divided into little 3 months within the year. So I was done with class 8 around December. But because I went to an international school in India, they use the same system that American schools do. So school started around August, September-ish, and then again into like summertime, just like here. I finished school in December. I finished class 8. We moved to India almost immediately. They're still in the same school year. So I'm coming into school in the middle of the year. Not fun at all. Because at this point, I'm playing catch up to everybody, the school system. I'm like, why am I back in class 8? Why? Like, I just finished and you guys want to take me back? What? In hindsight, it wasn't the worst, and we'll get to why it wasn't really the worst thing that could have happened. So India was a lovely place. The one thing that I really remember about is the KFC. Man, they had great KFC. And I know Americans don't like, well, some Americans don't like KFC because they're like, it's mid. And I get that because it is mid. But their KFC was good. I had KFC for the first time there and Chili's. I wasn't that adventurous with food because, I don't know, my parents weren't really adventurous with food. Even now, they still aren't. So we didn't really go out and try. Well, let me not say that. Phil is very adventurous. So he would eat the street food. He'll eat anything. He'll try it anything. I just followed my mom's lead. So if she would try it, I would try it. If she didn't, then I didn't. And I wouldn't call her adventurous with your, yeah, mom, it's okay. I just want to preface by saying that before I started traveling, my mom had always warned me that like people are not as accepting as you may be of them, right? Like there's people who are going to judge you simply based off of your skin. So she had taught me about racism before. However, I did not anticipate experiencing racism. How old was I? 12? That was not in my bingo cards. And it was quite possibly the worst time, okay? So, okay, moving there was kind of just like the first time that I realized that I was black. Because when you're in Kenya, no one is really identifying themselves as black. You're Kenyan or you're whatever tribe that you come from. But in the streets of India, okay, mind you, I also had braids. I think I had a mix. So I had black and blue braids, and I'm black. I stuck out like a sore thumb. Okay, I'm walking down the street, you're gonna be able to see me from a mile away. With this came a lot of staring. People were just curious, you know, like always. And that's one thing that I will tell you is that they were not afraid to do. Look at you. Traumatizing. Okay, I also want to say I was pretty shy. Like growing up, I was shy. So I do not want any attention back away from me. So having this hyper visibility just made it worse. My anxiety, it got so bad to the point where I just was not even comfortable leaving our apartment. I did not want to go outside. I would spend like my weekends in my room, which is pretty sad. We send out a very warm hug to 12-year-old Nettie, but it was an interesting time. I didn't feel comfortable with the staring, but that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was in school. For some reason, I got to the school that we're not gonna put it on blast. It was an okay school, but it's been hidden from my memories. But I got to this school, and I remember on the first day, my teachers warned me about this one girl, and they were like, listen, just be careful. She's a little, you know, she can be a little much at times. And in my head, I'm like, okay, like you're warning me as a teacher, I'm gonna take that into consideration. Guess what? These same people who warned me about this girl go ahead and sit me right next to her. Okay? These like regular tables, 2 seats, me and her. What sense does that make? What sense does that make? You got me in my Dr. Omar. I'm gonna keep repeating it. What sense does it make? For you to sit me next to the girl that you literally just warned me about like 5 minutes ago. Anyway, so yes, the girl eventually brought me hell, and she's the reason why I experienced racism for the first time. The details of that don't really matter. Like, I was crying in school. Who wants to be crying in school? I'm laughing now, but that shit was traumatizing. My parents knew I was experiencing this, but my mother... Now listen, if you're a Kenyan girly, you know. Okay, let me not generalize, because there's some African moms and Kenyan moms that are different out there. However, a lot of our moms don't show emotion. And to make it worse, she's an Aquarius. If I went to this woman crying, she would tell me, not from this particular situation, just in general, she would always tell me, listen, the world is tough, okay? The world is gonna be hard. And you just gotta toughen up. I'm emotional, very emotional. And I didn't get to claim to be emotional until I was like, I think I was in college. That's kind of when I embraced the fact that, hey, listen, I'm emotional, what can I say? So I brought up the issue to them, but I don't know how serious they took me. It's just like, that's just one of those parts that's kind of just left blank, questionable. Like, could we have done something about this sooner than later? I felt like I had to take extreme measures to get my point across to them, and be like, I'm not happy here. I know it's just school and I'm here for a few days, but I want to go back home. Take me back to my people. And it was also really sad because, like, I had no friends. Okay, let me not lie. I forgot my girl Pooja. Let me give you some credit. I had her, and there were 2 other girls. I don't remember their names though, but they were so sweet to me. But I don't think they lived close to me, number one. And also, I just was not comfortable enough meeting people outside. Like, I wasn't comfortable going outside if it wasn't with my parents, because then it makes sense. But by myself, hell no. Where am I going? And for what reason? So I didn't feel like I had anybody that I could talk to about anything. However, I was so, like, I knew that I had myself and I had to figure out a way to feel better. Now, this is kind of where we're going to go into a 13-year-old's mind. For whatever reason, I was just, this is going to sound so ridiculous, but also, like, this is what I did to try and make myself feel better. I fully 100% wanted to believe that magic existed. For whatever reason, I was trying to convince myself that, hey, maybe there's something I can do about the situation, but like on my own. Can I do some magic? And I found this book. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, usually he's not allowed on the bed, but we're gonna leave him there. Let me go look for my book. Maybe he can keep you guys company while I'm gone. Where is that book? Okay, I can't find the book, but I'm gonna put it on the screen. Now, if you've seen this book before, if you've read this book before, then you know how this version of magic is approached. I haven't read the book in a while, but from what I can remember, the book talks about, it gives you like practices that you can do every single day to be more grateful, or to, you know, show more gratitude, and then the magic will happen in your life. I remember picking that book up, being so excited, like, oh my gosh, I can do magic. And then I read it and I was like, what is this? I bought this book so I can be a wizard, a witch, so I could be a little, you know? But you want to tell me that I have to be grateful and the magic is going to show? No, I need an immediate solution to my current situation, and you're not giving me that. Please. So the book, straight to the bin. Not the bin, because I love books a little bit too much. I always kept it. I still have it. Like, I've had it for all these years. It's just that it wasn't giving me what I needed at that moment, so I put it away. What I didn't know was that this book was going to be so important in the next coming years. So now we're clocking about maybe 4 or 5-ish months in India, and it's been an interesting experience so far. Okay, I didn't even realize it until my parents called me out on it, but in school, your teachers, when they talk, they right? I didn't realize that I was picking up on that until I was having dinner with my parents and they asked me something and I just went, and they laughed so hard at me. I was so embarrassed. But that is just so funny. Like, I was trying to pick up, because my friends spoke like that too. So you don't even realize when you're picking it up. I also fully learned their national anthem. Where's my phone? We had to stand up, how they do the Pledge of Allegiance. I haven't said that, and I don't even know if that's the right name for it. But the way that you do that in American schools was exactly how we did this in India.
Here's to a new feeling.
Okay, here we go. The whole thing. And I still remember it to this day because I got great memory, girl. So, yeah, I left India with a head shake and their national anthem. And then after those 5 months, mind you, we were supposed to be there my entire school year. I think my mom was like, this is getting a little too much. She's not settling in. So maybe let's do something about that. So after that school year was over, we took a little mini break and went back to Kenya for, I don't remember how long, like a few weeks or a month, I don't know. And then we moved to the US. And again, this is why I say it was perfect timing, because once we moved to America, I could start high school with everyone else. So I wasn't left behind. I wasn't coming in the middle of, no, we were all starting fresh. Where is my concealer brush? So when I moved to America, we moved to South Jersey, and this area was pretty quiet. There wasn't much going on, very, very much suburb, and another culture shock because when I lived in Kenya, I had my community, right? Like, you go outside, you talk to people, the entire neighborhood knows each other. That's just what it was. India, I didn't really know people, but like, you have places that are walkable. People, you can clearly see people around, know each other. And then I moved to the US, and it's just quiet. We moved to my stepdad's house because he still had his house here. So we moved to that house, and he stayed in India and finished his work, or, his contract or whatever. So while I was here, it was just me and my mom adjusting. But, we had a couple people come over and like help us out, a couple of his friends. So the transition wasn't too crazy. I got into school. I didn't really have to worry about going into an international school because I had to go to, how the school system works here. I had to go to school in the community that I was living in. So things were a lot simpler. But I was also getting used to the fact that like you gotta drive everywhere, and I love to walk. So a lot of times I'd find myself like walking on these roads that just looked like I wasn't supposed to be walking on, to go to Rite Aid and do what? Buy drugstore makeup. That became my hobby. So I moved here and I really got into makeup, and I started doing my makeup in high school. Then we started school, and at this point I had the experience that I had in India, and I did not want to go through this same thing at all. So I like avoided putting any type of attention on myself. I didn't want to be visible. Like, I just wanted to stay in my little bubble. Being in America came with a lot. Like, coming here, I had to learn so many other things in such a short time too. But I also had to learn what American racism was. I remember being in class, and I had a friend. He was an interesting friend, rest his soul. He passed away while we were still in high school. I remember me and him were having a conversation. We were just chatting in class, and he had a whiteboard marker, and we had a whiteboard next to us, and then he just wrote the word K, and then wrote another K, and then a third one. And I looked at it and I was like, what does that mean? But everybody around were like, oh, look what he did. And we had a sub. I remember we had a sub in class that day, so the sub got really mad. I was like, erase that immediately. The sub looked like he was half black, so it makes sense. This kid was also, I don't know if he was white. I think he was white. So I'm like, what does that mean? I get on my phone and I'm like, oh, that's what the KKK is? So that's what that means? Another really funny thing that I also came to learn was what emo meant. When I first heard the word emo, I was so confused. I was like, you mean like emotional? Like, what does that mean? And then I learned, and I was like, oh, so that's why that girl over there dresses like that. That makes sense. So while I was in the school in South Jersey, I got into sports. I made friends. It was a lot smoother experience for me than it was when I moved to India. I ended up building a community for myself. Okay, some of my best friends. Again, I'm going to keep referring to my vlogs because you need to go and watch that. And although I went through so many changes, and for the most part, I felt like nobody could relate to what I was going through. None of my friends were going through what I was going through, and I just didn't feel comfortable talking to my parents about the things that I was feeling for a multitude of reasons. I felt like I had to keep things to myself, but it was just eating me up, right? Now, we're going back to the book. He's also getting to know me because he's only known me for the past year and like a few months. So then I don't know, I think I got more into like spirituality and calming, how to take care of my mental health and all that, and gratitude came back a lot, which took me back to the book that I was reading, that same book. And I was like, okay, so this wasn't really about magic, but it was just not the way that I expected it. But within the past couple years, it sparked a lot of interest in living life through the lens of gratitude. So I've read a plethora of books, self-help books that speak on that topic and just how to make life a little more enjoyable. So all of these changes came with so many painful lessons, and there are so many things that I'm just like, I had to deal with I had to deal with these thoughts at such a young age and so early so early in my life, and I had to figure things out by myself, or it felt like I needed to figure things by myself. But along the way, I picked up so many important lessons that have allowed me to live my life the way that I do now. And my life feels so much more happier and just, I don't know. Yeah, like a lot of shit still happens, but I know how to deal with it better because of the lessons that I learned. If I was to summarize that experience into bullet points, here's what I would say. Let's embrace and appreciate this natural lighting for a second. Also, I kind of ate this look up. Okay, back to what I was saying. Did I break it? Number one, change is inevitable. It's gonna happen whether you like it or not. That's just what life is. However, you have the option to decide whether you're going to have a crappy time or you're actually going to just embrace the change and see what happens. Right? Like, just do things for the fun of it. You're in a situation where you don't want to be, okay, well, find something fun to do in the meantime. That was the first big lesson, I would say. Number two, show gratitude and show it often. Now that I'm older and I can look back on these memories, I can see how they shaped me to be the person that I am, and I'm very grateful for that. However, I can choose to only look at the shitty, nasty parts, all of the bad things that happen, and be like, wow, that was a terrible experience. I would never do that again. But truthfully, I would love to go back to India just so I can have a completely different experience and actually get to enjoy myself and to be able to appreciate the culture, because there's so many beautiful things that I didn't get to experience because I was a nervous preteen who was just learning how to navigate life. But we were there during the holy season where they throw paints and, you know, the powder paint on each other, and I was just watching from upstairs. And those are the memories that are not good, but I can't, as much as they're still in here, I can't focus on that, right? The food was amazing. The culture was great. I remember wearing a sari and somebody hyping me up on the streets, right? And I also get to claim that I lived in India. How many of y'all could do that? No shade. I learned the importance of capturing memories as well, which is why I vlog. My channel is mainly vlogs, but I also want to introduce this type of content because I want to not only get comfortable speaking in front of the camera, but I feel like I have a lot to say and you're going to listen to me. But it's allowed me to appreciate my life a little bit more. So any new experience that I have in my life, like I do right now, I'm in my new home in New York City. If you didn't know, again, I'm not going to tell you again. Go back and watch the video, which is actually calling myself out because I have to upload the part 2 of my move, so stay tuned for that. I also learned the importance of traveling and just experiencing new cultures, different things. You don't know what you don't know until you know. And being around so many different cultures, growing up in Kenya, growing up in India, and here, you get to see the beauty of life and how people have turned, or how people interpret beauty, which is so interesting to me. Everywhere something is different, and I enjoy learning the different things about people because then it expands my mind, and you see the world changes. You start looking at things so differently. So my perspective has changed a lot because of traveling, and I'm very grateful for that. I feel like if I didn't have that background, I wouldn't be able to do half of the things that I do. That brings me to my fourth point, the confidence to do the things that I do. I've had to push myself out of my comfort zone so many times, and when I didn't want to, and that's quite literally the worst. Like I didn't have control over anything. I just had to adjust, and I had to adjust fast because this is the new life, like, girl. So with that came a lot of confidence that I had to find, that I'm still finding, okay? But people can tell that there's something different about me, and for the longest part I've tried to hide that about me. I don't know, I felt ashamed of some of the experiences that I have. But there's beauty in being vulnerable. There's beauty in being confident in your story, because nobody else in this world, no matter how relatable people are, nobody has the experiences that you have. Your experiences make you relatable, but your experience is completely different from anybody else in this world. So change is not easy. It's not. And whether you're in your 20s or you're moving to a new school, you're moving to a new city, you're moving where it's going to be hard, give yourself some grace for the first couple months, okay? Just Let yourself adjust to this new life. You don't have to panic in the midst of you adjusting. Like, just allow things to be. Let things be as they are. You don't like how they are, there's only so much you can do about that. The only thing you can control at the end of the day is you and how you choose to see things. With that being said, my move to New York vlog part 2 is on the way, so stay tuned. I just have not given myself time to sit down and edit it, but I'm really looking forward to still getting to share my experiences while learning new things and also traveling a lot more, okay? But thank you so much for tuning into my story. If you like this type of content where I'm sitting down and I'm talking to the camera, doing whatever it is, let me know what it is that you want in the comment section, and your girl will try and make things. No, I won't try and make things work. I will make things work because it's who I am. Period. Hold on, because this makeup kind of eats. I did that. He has a lot to say too, so if you want to listen or you want a statement from me, so buddy, what do you want to tell the people? He's supportive sometimes. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next week. Goodbye. Oh, the sun. Hold on. It's golden hour.